Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Today's video is all about someone getting revenge on their mother-in-law. So let's not waste any time in introductions and get started with this first story. This one's from user Throwaway Mill Story. Long revenge on my mother-in-law. Long time lurker and decided to share my revenge story, which has not concluded. It's been almost 20 years in the making and will continue until I'm done. If there are any mistakes, please understand that English is not my native language. Thus, I apologize up front. Some background. My wife has two sisters. Her father passed and he was a very intelligent and kind person that I still look up to, even years after his passing. Mother-in-law is still alive and doing horribly. Mother-in-law has always been a difficult person. Maybe a straight-up B would be more appropriate. She used to cheat on her husband, even taking my wife, who was then 4 or 5 years old, with her to meet and F other guys. They were from a small town and moved to a bigger city when the problem got too much to handle for my father-in-law. He had an old school mentality and didn't want to leave his wife even though he knew about her many affairs because he took on the responsibility of his 3 daughters. Everything he did was only for his daughters. Additionally to being a B, mother-in-law also became a hidden alcoholic, hiding beers and wine around the house or finding a pretext to go out to her car where she could drink. She fought endlessly with my wife, who is now 33. Mother-in-law threw her out of the house, made her sleep on benches and in her car. The fights would entail screaming, hair pulling, and just being a complete B without reason. For example, my wife worked 2 jobs to cover her university expenses, and every night she would get home from school or work at around 2 to 3 a.m. Then mother-in-law would come waltzing in her room at 7 in the morning and open up the curtains to wake her up and just start fighting. Mother-in-law never agreed to the university my wife went to, but nevertheless, she bragged in her hometown as if she was the one paying and motivating my wife to study. Other examples that show the class of horrible human she is are driving completely drunk with the little sister, 6 to 7 years old back then, 2006-2007, in her car, reminding me and my then girlfriend, now wife, that she gave us 10 euros to charge our phone credits as if the world depended on it. Needless to say, we paid every single cent plus interests back, even if she didn't ask for it. Enough background. I'm sure you understand the type of person we're dealing with here. So let's get started with my revenge in time. This is where we start. My wife's family moved to another country in 2002. Now, mother-in-law could not stand me from the get-go. She even spoke to my mother about breaking us up. I was 16, my wife 17 when we met in 2001. She was always against us and kept it up even when we moved in together, proving this was not a teenager flick anymore. She would start fights with me about my family and the work I do. I started in construction when I moved out of the country to be with my then girlfriend. Years go by and we moved away from the city where mother-in-law and the rest of the family lived in. Not far, about 150 miles. We moved to get better jobs and a nicer place to live. This was in 2007. 3 years passed by and during this time I slowly planted the idea that my wife's middle sister could also move here with us. We could help her search for a job and ask her to pay only for a small portion of the rent after she works for 2 months. So then 2010 comes around and the middle sister is not happy at all. She is now the one fighting with her mother, so of course she wants out. Again, I bring it up with my wife and insist that we can't let her mother ruin her sister's life. So we both agree and the middle sister moves in. We find her a job and she likes the place, the pay, and even meets and falls in love with her now husband. She is really happy and laughing all the time. Needless to say that my mother-in-law is destroyed. Now the only sister remaining is the little one. She was born when mother-in-law was in her 40s. Fortunately, she is too little for mother-in-law to start harassing and fighting with her. At this point, mother-in-law becomes remorseful and starts calling and saying that she loves her daughters and that now she will die alone. She even stopped drinking for a short while, but old habits die very hard. In this case, it is still very much alive. By the end of 2010, I found another job in another country. Yes, this is in Europe. So we move again, leaving the middle sister with her own place and her happy new life. With all the love mother-in-law spreads around, the little sister is not doing well in school. She's getting bullied and is genuinely unhappy. My wife starts helping her with homework via Skype until the situation is unbearable. So again, I just hint that we could take a bigger apartment and get the little sister here with us. She could learn another language and we could help her achieve her potential. I asked the little sister what she thought about this idea and she was thrilled. I did make it very clear that this is only an idea and that she should really think about it. By the time school is over that year, she desperately wants to come and live with us, and we follow through. To get her younger sister to come live with us, we did need mother-in-law's permission. My wife got it after having some talks with her. We just implied that mother-in-law works too much, shift work, and we have the time to take care of her. Mother-in-law is very selfish. She only thinks of herself. So we just worked that angle, you're doing too much, let us help, and so on. I prepared the papers with a lawyer here. We had to include that the mother will not lose any parenting rights, but we have full custody of the little sister when she is in the country we live now. But this has also been a fight because I wanted to get child support here and healthcare, but the mother-in-law denied to sign other papers, thinking that she might lose custody. Finally, with some help from the school and the health insurance company, I got the little one a social security number. She has healthcare and the mother-in-law sends about 550 euros every month as a support. By September 2012, she starts the school here. Difficult because of the language barrier, but she is tough and intelligent. All the sisters are like that. We start from scratch. Keep in mind, she is 12 at this point and is very much behind with her schooling, so we spend nights and days learning. I teach her the language, and my wife does math, geography, and so on. I was the only one working, and my wife was pregnant with our first daughter. We pull through all of this, meaning that now mother-in-law is just lonely. Nobody wants her in their home. She comes visiting, but if they see that she drank beforehand, she is sent away. Again, she started to spread the "I love you" without hearing any reply, just silence or an "okay, mom." Now, she doesn't have anybody. She even tried living with another guy, but as soon as her mask fell off and he recognized who and how she was, they ended. She is still spreading lies about him, thinking that we all lived in a cave without knowing how she really is. Sometimes she calls and cries that nobody calls her. Not her daughters, not her older sister. I laugh about it. I am happy. I worked so hard to get this result, and I can't wait for her to get sick and wither away. I can't put it into words how alone she is and how miserable she feels. I know it will remain like this until she dies. I will make sure of it. My watch never ends. Smiley face. Edit to add. I don't know if I should take any merit because I was motivated firstly by revenge and only then compassion. Maybe I'm not any better than my mother-in-law, but what I can say for sure is all three sisters are happy. I have 2 daughters and just an amazing wife. The middle sister has a 10-month-old daughter as well, and the little sister found a vocation in design and follows a very hard but great school that specializes in design. Well, OP, you might consider this a revenge because she hurt you and you took away her family in a way. But what you ended up doing was helping your sisters-in-law get away from a horrible abusive mother who just, made them unhappy. You and your wife sound like awesome people and definitely changed for the better the lives of your sisters-in-law. Your mother-in-law being alone and miserable is a prison of her own making. There may be many reasons to why your mother-in-law is a horrible person, like maybe she was also abused by her mother or something like that. But from what you tell us, she never did anything to correct where her life was going and ended up abusing her own children. So whatever's happening to her now, she had it coming. In any case, it's awesome that you guys are happy and that your sisters-in-law are happy with the lives that they have. Good for you. So on that note, let's move on to the next story. This one's from user Restless Bee Face. I fed the bee dog treats. The year was 2006. I was a young, dumb girl that had gone and gotten myself married to someone completely wrong for me. He refused to work, and as a result of financial difficulties of us both being in school and only me working, we found us living with his mom. Let me tell you, that is every newlywed's dream. Over the course of us living with her, anytime I would buy myself a food treat, mother-in-law would eat it. Didn't matter what it was or where I hid it. She was a bloodhound for sniffing out things that I bought just for me. The final straw was one night we had gone out to dinner at the Cheesecake Factory. I had taken my slice to go and put it in the fridge. I was gonna have it after work the next day. Next day at work is absolute crap, and the only thing getting me through my shift is the slice of cheesecake I know is in the fridge. I go home and pop the lid off the container, and it doesn't look right. There are mother effing fork marks all around the outside perimeter of my cheesecake. Like she could just sneak some of all around and I wouldn't notice. I was furious. I went and handed it to her and told her she may as well eat the rest of it. Fast forward a few days and I'm at the pet store picking up some dog food. I'm standing in line waiting to check out, and they have these little boxes of dog treats that look like the little red boxes of animal crackers you can buy for little kids. Now, it very clearly says on the front, circus animals for dogs. About this time, I've got a little devil sitting on my shoulder whispering in my ear, "Do it." And then the angel pops onto my other shoulder and screams, "Effing do it!" So they magically ended up with the stuff that I am buying. I drive home and leave everything in a bag all together on the kitchen counter. Several hours later, she comes into our room and says, "I think there was something wrong with those animal crackers. They were the most awful ones I've ever eaten. I had to eat a whole thing of frosting with them just to finish them." All I said was, "Huh," and shrugged my shoulders. In hindsight, what I should have said was, "Oh, those were for our dogs. Now they're gonna be sad they don't get their treat," and feign sadness. Luckily, she hasn't been my problem for well over a decade. I got rid of her son and no longer had to deal with her crazy antics either. I think the part that really got to me is the fact that this mother-in-law had to use a whole thing of frosting to finish these horrible crackers. I mean, after you eat one and you notice they suck, why would you continue eating the rest? I mean, what's the matter with you? I'm not sure if this mother-in-law learned her lesson, but OP got back and it made her feel better, so that's good enough. Anyways, it's not like they're gonna harm the mother-in-law. Those treats are perfectly healthy. They just taste like, well, dog treats. And on that note, let's move on to the final story. This one's from user VoteDog. Former mother-in-law used too much salt in her food. Asked her to tone it down. She refused. So I hit her salt shakers the next time we ate there. I have suffered from chronic migraines since I was a kid. Something important for every migraine sufferer to know are their triggers. Triggers are the things in your life that are most likely to start a migraine. For some, it may be extreme heat. For others, it's stress. And for me, it's salt. I can't have a lot of it, and if I do, a migraine will start almost right away. Due to this, I can only have Chinese food every once in a while, and I have to be very careful to read labels for sodium content. Migraines hurt like a mofo, but can also send me to the ER, which is expensive. My ex-mother-in-law, I'll call her Karen, loved to cook and added too much salt to everything. It didn't take me long to notice that right after eating a meal prepared by her, my head would start beating like a drum. We had dinner with them every Sunday, so my ex went to Karen, explained my situation, and asked her to tone down the salt. Karen was not happy. She thought changing the ingredients of her food would alter the taste too much. She agreed to cut back, but the very next time we had dinner with them, I went home feeling like my head was going to explode, and I knew she hadn't. My wife asked her about it later, and Karen said she'd originally cut the salt, but after tasting it decided it wasn't flavorful enough and added it back in. She told my wife she wouldn't sacrifice flavor for me, so that's the last time we had Sunday dinner there. Months later, we had to go there for a birthday party. We arrived early. hours from dinner, so Karen hadn't yet started cooking. I was in the kitchen getting a beverage and saw her precious salt shaker sitting on the counter. I picked it up, went into the pantry and hid it behind some cereal boxes. While there, I saw the round refill container, grabbed that and hid it too. Hours later, Karen is cooking and we hear a commotion. She's upset she can't find her salt shaker. She goes into the pantry, complaining that she also can't find the large container either. My wife and I were sitting outside, acting like nothing was out of the ordinary. She ended up cooking all the dishes without salt and whined the whole time about how terrible everything tasted. Karen was in a very bad mood as everyone dished up. It wasn't long before they started complimenting her on the food. People were saying it was some of the best she'd ever made, and from her face you could see she was shocked to hear that. Several people said to her, "This is great! Did you tone down the salt? You use a lot, you know. This tastes like you used the perfect amount." To which Karen hissed, "It has no salt because I can't find my shakers." Nobody else was bothered by this. They just nodded and agreed it was amazing. The more they complimented her, the more upset she got. For some reason, she never thought to ask anyone if they had purposely taken them. We ate and then got up to leave not long afterward. On our way out, we went by the kitchen to take some leftovers home. While there, I pulled the salt shaker and container out, put them in our bag, took them home and trashed them. It was the first time I had eaten a meal with that family and not gone home with a migraine. Absolutely fantastic, OP. Hopefully she learned the lesson about not confusing salt with flavor. Too much salt actually takes flavor away because it just tastes like salt. I would have loved to be at that table looking at her face while everybody complimented food that she thought was flavorless while everybody was saying this is the best you've ever made. Oh, fantastic. Now, a short side note on migraines. I don't suffer from them, thankfully, but I know they can be really hard because some people in my family have them. I have a hypothesis regarding OP's migraines and maybe something that could help treat them. But of course, since I'm not an expert, I would love if any of you that is listening to this can either support or debunk what I'm about to say. So OP says that too much salt triggers his migraines. Could it be that his migraines are a side effect of some sort of dehydration based on too much salt, and that maybe having something with electrolytes in it like a Gatorade or straight up water with electrolytes could help ease his pain a bit? Like I said, this is just a hypothesis because I am not an expert on this topic. So if you do know, I would love to hear what you have to say in the comment section. And so we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you guys liked it. If you did, go ahead and click like. Of course, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Also, here are more videos from my channel that you might enjoy. And having said all that, I will see you guys on the next video.